face this week, but I know Friday night is right around the corner. You can make it. Gotta get up, make it through the day. This is what you say. Who you saying it to? I guess it's you you've got to motivate. Tonight when the sun goes down, there's a kind of hush all over town. Setting tables, welcoming angels come on to gather around. Nothing pressing, get the blessing, feel the Sabbath peace. Let go of the stress and let the Spirit give release. It doesn't matter what you've seen this week, I know it's true. If you let it in, Shabbat will make it just Hashem and you. Let go of stress and just rest. He's got it in control. The sun will come out. You just call the time out. This is what I've been talking about. You know it's gonna work out. The sun will come out. You just call the time out. This is what I've been talking about. You know it's gonna work out. Whatever you're going through, he knows. You're only going down the path he chose. Just know he's got you in his hand. Right now the pain is all you see. Let Shabbat Shalom come and make you free. He will give you strength to stand. Whatever you're going through, he knows. You're only going down the path he chose. Just know he's got you in his hand. Right now the pain is all you see. Let Shabbat Shalom come and make you free. He will give you strength to stand. The sun will come out. You just call the time out. This is what I've been talking about. You know it's gonna work out. The sun will come out. You just call the time out. This is what I've been talking about. You know it's gonna work out. The sun will come out. You just call the time out. This is what I've been talking about. You know it's gonna work out. The sun will come out. You just call the time out. This is what I've been talking about. You know it's gonna work out.
אנא בכוח גדולת ימינך תתרצה רוח קבל רינת עמך סגבנו טהרנו נורא אנא בכוח גדולת ימינך תתרצה רוח קבל רינת עמך סגבנו טהרנו נורא אנא בכוח גדולת ימינך תתיר צעורה קבל רינת עמך סגבנו טהרנו נורא נא גיבור דורשי ייחודך כבבת שומרם ברכם טהרם רחמי צדקתך תמיד גומלם חסין קדוש
Shabbat Shalom everyone. I am Sharon from Kehilat, Bethlechem, and welcome to this week's Torah Straight Talks. This week we have a double portion. Yes, we have Parsha Mattot and we have Mattot-Massei. Two portions for this week. And it is also the last portion in the book of Numbers. Yes, we will be closing the book of Bamidbar, Numbers, this week, and we will be entering a new book, Devarim or Deuteronomy, as you say in English, next week. The Torah portion talks about promises and vows, the decimation of the Midianites, a warning not to spare the enemy, the allotment of the land to the tribe of Reuben and Gad, and all the journeys of the Israelites are captured in this week's Torah portions. The demarcation of the boundaries of the land of Israel, the appointment of tribal heads, and city of refuge. And Hashem closes this Torah portion with a warning not to defile the land with innocent blood. There are a lot of things to learn from this Torah portion. But before we learn the Torah portion, let us thank Hashem for enabling us to learn the Torah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu bemitzvotav vetzivanu lasok b'devrei Torah. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us with his commandments and commanded us to engross ourselves in the words of the Torah. Amen and amen. I will give you a quick roundup of this week's Torah portion for all of you who haven't taken time to read it. But I strongly recommend that we all read the Torah portion in our preparation towards Shabbat. This week's Torah portion, Mattot and Massei, are from Numbers chapter 30 verse 2 through Numbers chapter 36 verse 13. Numbers chapter 30 verse 2 through Numbers chapter 36 verse 13. This week's Parsha, the Torah tells us to be very careful about making promises to Hashem so that we don't accidentally break them. The Torah is very strict in this matter, especially when it comes to men. Last week we read how Pinchas killed Zimri and the Midianite woman who tried to get together against God's will. God now commands the Jewish people to wage war against the Midianites for trying to convince the Jews to act immorally and worship idols. Moshe chooses 1,000 men from each of the 12 tribes to serve as soldiers in the army. He appoints Pinchas as one of the leaders of the army. When the Midianites see the Israelites' army coming to fight, they laugh and say, "The Israelite army is so small, we will win over them for sure." However, with God's help, the Israelite army is victorious over the Midianites without losing even a single soldier. Please let know, without losing a single soldier. Just like how Midianites managed to kill 24,000 Jewish men by the sin of Baal Peor without suffering a casualty on their side, so did Hashem kill the Midianites without a single casualty on Israelites' side. Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, measure for measure. The way they treated Israelites is what they got back when it was Hashem's turn to give them back. After the war is over, two tribes of Reuben and Gad approach Moshe to make a request. They ask if they can settle with their families and cattle at the east side of Jordan instead of crossing over the river to enter the land of Israel. Why did they want to do that? Because they found that land, the east side of Jordan, to be very fertile, which was good for cattle. And these two tribes owned a lot of cattle. They noticed that the land on the east side was fertile with rich green grass for cattle to graze. Also, they knew that Moshe would not be buried in the land of Israel, so they wanted to remain near Moshe's burial place. At first, Moshe was angry. He thought that they were taking their lot and trying to escape. Moshe questioned them, "Will you stay here safe and protected while your brothers go to war to conquer the land? Where is your arabut, or where is your responsibility towards your brothers?" When the tribes clarified their request, stating that they will gladly join their brothers in battle, Moshe agrees to let them settle there. When Moshe agrees, half of the tribe of Manasseh also joins Reuben and Gad and settle in the land east of Jordan River. Now we enter Mattot-Massei. In Mattot-Massei, we see the listing of all the 42 pit stops that the children of Israel made in their travels throughout the desert from the time they started out from Egypt until the time that they are at the border of the land of promise. After a long list, we read the boundaries of Israel and according to the Torah. The Torah portion discusses a very important mitzvah for the people living in the land of Israel. They are commanded to build 6 cities of refuge. Throughout the land of Israel, they were to be a safe place for anyone who had killed a man unintentionally. This is the Torah portion, or this week's double Torah portion in a nutshell. And now we will take a few minutes to study an important topic in Parsha Mattot. It's about vows. The Torah portion starts with this topic. The Torah portion begins at Numbers 3, verse 2 and verse 3. Then Moshe spoke to the heads of the tribes of the people of Israel, and he said, "Here is what Adonai has ordered. When a man makes a vow to Adonai or formally obligates himself to swear an oath, he is not to break his word, but is to do everything he said he would do." Let me read that again. Then Moshe spoke to the heads of the tribes of the people of Israel. He said, "Here's what Adonai has ordered. When a man makes a vow to Adonai or formally obligates himself by swearing an oath, he is not to break his word, but is to do everything he said he would do." The whole chapter is dedicated to vows and promises. Yet only one verse, verse 3, speaks about vows made by men. And the rest of the chapter, the remaining 16 verses, cover vows made by women. By textual volume, it looks like more importance is given to the vows made by women because they cover more verses in the Bible. They take more space. That's how we look at some things sometimes. But it is not. If you carefully examine the text, vows made by men are to be fulfilled, and if Hashem himself has made it, as if Hashem himself has made it. Let's look at that verse again. When a man makes a vow to Adonai, formally obligates himself by swearing an oath, he is not to break his word, but is to do everything he said he will do. It says, if you said it, you do it. No strings attached, no excuses. Well, you cannot say, I will do it later. You cannot say, I said it without thinking. You cannot say, I was not in the right state of mind when I made the vow. You cannot say, I was emotionally charged and words just flew out of my mouth. You cannot say, I don't know it would be so difficult. I didn't know it would be so difficult. You cannot say it was just a fluke. You cannot also say, I didn't count the cost. Because you said it, you have to do it. Because you vowed it before Hashem. That is what is expected of men. This is what Hashem is looking for in men. We cannot say God understands. We cannot say God knows my heart. Even though I don't do it physically, He knows that it is in my heart. We cannot say God knows my condition. We cannot say God knows my circumstances and the situations that I am in, and that is the reason I am not able to fulfill my vow. We cannot say God is a loving Father. He will give grace. He is a good Father. He will let me go. No, it doesn't work that way. We cannot say God is not very strict. Well, Yeshua will intercede on my behalf and I will get away with my vow. Well, God is not interested in us invoking His nicer attributes for our convenience. Rather, He is more keen on us fulfilling what we said. It's a commandment that not to break the word or do everything that we have said. It's a commandment. Hashem does not say you may or if, but He says you should. Now the question is, why is God so strict about this commandment? Doesn't He know that man is frail and weak? Doesn't He know that man acts in haste without thought sometimes? The one who made us, doesn't He know our shortcomings, especially with our mouth? Then why is this expectation from Hashem? Why is this commandment? Well, we will answer that in a little bit, but let's look at another side of it. Each of us during our lifetime, we had made vows. We have made promises to Hashem, and sometimes we did it cognitively with our thought, sometimes irrationally without thought. Based on our situations and circumstances, sometimes we, even out of our own selfish motives, we sometimes may make promises to God. Some people even go to the extent of making a deal with Hashem. If you do this for me, I will do this in return. But as often observed, we tend to forget our obligation once we receive from Hashem what we have asked for. Hashem has always kept His side of deal, but we often ignore our obligation. It is not that we forget, we remember our side of deal. We are fully aware of our obligation, but we conveniently ignore it. Hashem always got the raw side of the deal. We will see this in all the journeys of the children of Israel. Hashem always got a bad deal. In spite of all the miracles and wonders and victories that Hashem has gave the children of Israel, they still shied away from Him, often chasing after their own hearts. The deal was that Hashem will be their God, their Father, their King. He will provide for them like a mother. He will protect them like a father. He will care and tend for them like a good shepherd. And in return, Israelites vowed, we will do all that Adonai has spoken. Yes, they did say that they will do everything that Adonai has spoken. But as we see, at the slightest of opportunity, they wandered away from his word. They did not keep to their promise. The only thing that the children of Israel consistently gave Hashem was a disappointment. Hashem was always disappointed when it came to the Israelites keeping their side of the deal. We too are like the children of Israel most of the time. In our time of distress and trouble, we cry out to God. We take it a step further and try to lure God with our rewards, thinking he will fall for our honey trap. We make a deal with Hashem. God, if only you would do this for me. If only you would deliver me from this situation. If only you would rescue me. If only you would heal me. If only you would provide me, I would do this in return. Or I would do this as a thanksgiving. Or I would do this as an offering. However, we often forget that there is nothing we can do for Hashem and there is nothing we can give Hashem. Everything belongs to him. So what can we give him? Yet in his mercy, Hashem hears our prayers. He hears our cries and answers us. Not because we will fulfill our vow, but because of his abundant mercy, because he is a good father. When we were in a financial trouble, we called out to Hashem for help. We promised God that we will be diligent in our giving. We will be diligent in kingdom work, that we will take care of the poor, the orphan, and the needy. We said we would spend our money wisely and not waste it. I don't know what kind of promises we make Hashem just to get out of the situation. If God would ever deliver us from this financial crunch, we would promise God to do a lot of good things. And God does deliver us because he is our king, he is our father. But then the question is, did we keep our promise? Sometimes we say, maybe next month, when it's time for us to do it back, or when it's time for us to return the favor, we say, this month is a little tight. This month we have unexpected expenses. This month is not possible. This is anyways God's money. God gave it to me. He doesn't need it. What's the point in giving it back to him? That is the attitude of some of us. When it comes to returning, we hesitate. We have vowed to Hashem that we will give, yet we hesitate. When we are afflicted in sickness and we cry out to Hashem for healing and life, when we are in a life-threatening situation, lying there on the hospital bed, we promise Adonai to fix our lives. We promise him to be good boys. Some people I know even promise God that if God would heal and restore them back to life, they would leave everything in their life and serve Hashem. And God did spare their life. God did bring healing to them. The question now is, did we keep our side of the deal, or did we return to our old ways? Did we fix our life as we promised, or did we become good boys like we told Hashem when we were on our deathbed, or are we still unchanged and untransformed? Did we keep our side of the vow? Another example that I can give is people who are not able to have children. They often make a promise to God. If you give me a child, I will give him back to you. That's a very easy promise to make. They quote Hannah, take her words and say it back to Hashem. They try to cut a deal with Hashem. If you give me a child, I will make him or her your servant. I will raise them up in your ways. I will make them a good Jew or a Christian or whatever it is. But once the child is born, do we remember the promise we make? Do we raise our kids in the ways of God as we promised? Or Are we raising them as builders of the kingdom of Adonai or servants of God as we vow to Hashem? Or have we already planned their career and life for them? Is God even in the plan for their life? Did we already plan a doctorate or an engineering degree, a good job, a wife for our child? Or are we keeping our side of the vow to raise him up as we promised if only Hashem would give us that child? It is not just about the people who have a difficulty in bringing up children, but every parent at one point in time had made a vow to Hashem. If you are a Jew, if you are a Jewish parent, on the 8th day you would make a vow before Hashem. And if you are a non-Jewish parent, at some point in time, maybe on the day you christened your child, you made a vow before God that you will bring him up in the ways of Hashem. It is now time to see if we have kept that vow, if we kept our side of the deal. Even when people get married, they make vows. On their wedding day, they promise before Hashem that they will love each other, they will honor each other, they will respect each other until death do them apart. But 1 week into marriage, they cannot stand each other. What happened to the vow that we made before Hashem? Did we forget our vow? No. We don't often forget our vows. We are very cognitive and we remember because we are seeing what Hashem has already done. What we do is we conveniently ignore our vows made to Hashem. This week's Torah portion, especially the Torah portion, Mattot, is calling every man in the community of Israel, in the body of Messiah, to remember your vows and to keep your vows. If you said it, do it no matter what. Hashem says, he is not to break his word, but to do everything he said he would do. Why is Hashem making this so strict? Why is Hashem obligating man to be so rigid with his vow? It is because Hashem himself is like that. This is his nature. This is his characteristic. If he says he will do it, then he will keep it. Like we read in Numbers 23:19. In Balaam's words, God is not a human who lies or a mortal who changes his mind. When he says something, he will do it. When he makes a promise, he will fulfill it. Let's read that again. This is Prophet Balaam prophesying about God's character. God is not a human who lies or a mortal who changes his mind. When he says something, he will do it. When he makes a promise, he will fulfill it. This is the God we serve. This is the one whom we call our Father in heaven. And Hashem is expecting every man in the community, every man in the body of the Messiah, every man in the household of Israel to be just like him, in his likeness, in his image. And that is the reason Hashem is making this commandment or this mitzvah so rigid. In this Haftarah portion, Prophet Jeremiah is urging Israel to remember their vows to Hashem. We read that Hashem is asking, what did I do to deserve this, that you strayed from me? What did I do that you withdrew from your vows to me, to follow me and to keep my ways? The children of Israel at the time of Jeremiah had wandered from their ways. They have not kept their promise to Hashem to serve him with all their heart. And Hashem is asking them, why did they do it? And he's asking, did I not keep my side of promise? Is the question Hashem was asking the children of Israel. A very sad state of affairs. Will we make Hashem ask us the same question? will we make God ask the question, what fault did you find in me that you withdrew from me? Or will we keep our side of the deal and fulfill our vows in following Hashem? When we were in a financial crisis and we made a vow, will we keep it, or will we make Hashem ask the question, did I not fulfill my promise? When we were on deathbed and we made a promise, will we keep our side of the vow, or will we make Hashem ask, did I not fulfill my promise? Or did I not restore you back to life? When we were barren and asked for a child, and Hashem gave us a child, will we fulfill our promise, or make Hashem ask us the question, have I withheld my promise to you? None of us can claim that we have never broken a promise to Hashem. Just listen to our words. Even though you might have not been in any of the categories that I mentioned, like you might have not asked Hashem for help during a financial crisis, or maybe you were not in a deathbed, or maybe you were not childless. But just listen to your own words. Listen to the words of your mouth when you are in the shul or when you are in worship. Haven't we not sung the song, I surrender all? We sing it so passionately. When we sing it, we have made a vow to Hashem. Yes, we made a vow to Hashem to surrender all. Now the question is, did we really surrender all? Does our life now reflect a life of complete surrender? Because Hashem in this Torah portion is asking, if you have vowed, make sure you keep it. Some of us who do Shakrit every day we say, we serve the Supreme King of Kings, Holy One, blessed be He. Do we really serve the King of Kings? That is a question we need to ask. Every word that comes out from our mouth when we are in prayer, when we are in worship, it's a vow made unto Hashem. The question is, do we keep our side? And the question this week's Torah portion is asking, do we keep our side of the vows? Do we make these promises and keep them, or do we ignore them? I will close with these two examples. In Judges 11, we recount the incident of Jephthah's daughter. Jephthah was rejected by his brothers and community. He was an outcast. But when he was given the responsibility of defeating the Ammonites, not thinking and not expecting, he made a vow to Hashem. He says, if you will hand over the people of Ammon over to me, then whatever comes out of my door, I will return in peace. And if I return in peace to my people, I will sacrifice whatever comes out of my door as a burnt offering. Let me rephrase that. If you will hand the people of Ammon over to me, then whatever comes out of the door of my house to meet me when I return in peace from the people of Ammon, it will belong to Adonai. I will sacrifice it as a burnt offering. He did not give a thought of what he was promising Hashem. He didn't give a thought of what it would be. But when he came back victorious from the battle, his daughter, his only daughter, was the first to come out of his door. He did not hesitate to keep his vow. Yes, he was heartbroken, but he did not break his promise. He did not say, Hashem, this is my only daughter. He did not say, God will understand. He did not say, I spoke without thinking. He said, what he said, he kept it. He fulfilled his vow to Hashem. This is what Hashem is calling us to be. People who will keep their vows made to Him. Another short story, or a true incident I may say. A place close to Hyderabad where we are located is an old age home. And there is an old lady there whose story is this. She had 2 sons and she lost her husband early. She worked her small farm to support her 2 children and got them educated up to high school. That's all she could afford. She had a farm small enough to support their everyday needs, and they would eat just 1 meal a day, because that is all that she could earn from that little piece of land. As soon as the children became old enough to work, they too picked up labor jobs and started working. The elder one got married and moved out. The younger one got an opportunity to go to Kuwait to work as a laborer for a construction company. Once every week, the younger son would call their neighbor and would speak to his mother for 5 minutes. The mother was happy that the son was at least making a living for himself. But all of a sudden, the calls stopped. 1 week went, 2 weeks. 2 weeks became 3 weeks. And the mother kept asking the neighbor if her son had called, sometimes even to the point of annoying the neighbor. 2 months have passed and no news from the son. Finally, not able to bear with the mother's persistence, the neighbor decided to inquire. He called people he knew who work in the same city in Kuwait and gave them the details and asked them to find out about the son. After waiting patiently for another 2 weeks, the unexpected news comes in. The son suffered an accident at his work site and was paralyzed from his hip down. He was not able to walk. He was not able to move himself. He was in the hospital with no one to take care of him and no one to pay for his treatment. The woman in her anguish made a vow to Hashem. If you heal my son, I will bring an offering of 5 lakh rupees or 500,000 rupees in Indian rupees. She in her entire lifetime and all her income put together had not seen that kind of money. But in her emotion, she made that vow unto Hashem. She spent time in prayer begging God for her son. A month later, a surprise phone call. Her son calls and says that he has experienced a supernatural healing and was now able to walk and work. Some unknown person has paid for his hospital expenses. He is now out of hospital and ready to go to work. The woman was overjoyed, and the first thing that she did was to let her elder son know that his brother was fine and also the vow she made. The elder son ridiculed his mother. He ridiculed her for the vow she made. He advised her to stay put because she had no means to fulfill her vow. The son also warned her that he will not take her in if she plans to fulfill her vow. She told her son, even if I have to die, I will still fulfill my vow to God. Even if I have to become homeless and beg on the streets, I will not withdraw from my vow, for God has healed my son. Notwithstanding the pressure from her son and relatives, the woman put together all that she had, the small piece of land that sustained her for her living, her thatched roof house, all the vessels and pots in the house. She sold everything she had. She was still falling short of her vowed amount. She approached the village head and narrates her story. A generous man was he. He gives her the deficit money to fulfill, fully aware that she will never repay him back. The woman takes the money and without wasting time, she brings the promised amount and brings an offering unto Hashem. Once she fulfilled her mitzvah, now she has nowhere to go. She has sold everything she has. She is now homeless. She starts living in the street. A few days later, the village head finds her under a tree, hungry and shivering in the morning cold. He takes her to the nearby old age home and admits her there. The woman, after recovering, she was asked about the decision she made, and she said it was still not a bad decision. She has no regrets. What she said was, even if I had to die, I would have still fulfilled my vow to Hashem. I know I will be homeless and I will be begging on the streets, but I still wanted to keep my vow to Hashem because He has healed my land. He has fulfilled His promise of healing my son. Let this challenge us. Let this story challenge each and every person in the community of Messiah. Let me say the statement again. Let every man remember his vow, and let every man fulfill his vow. Let every man remember his vow, and let every man fulfill his vow. Hope you were blessed by this Torah portion. Thank you for joining us this evening. Do join us tomorrow morning, Shabbat morning at 9 a.m. for our Shabbat service. Shabbat Shalom and Kol to all of you.
You are